Hey peeps, welcome back. So on my Instagram, I was giving out tips specifically towards people who have either a bigger collection. In order to own a big collection of plants, you have to come up with tips and tricks in order to be successful indoors, because we don't have rain. So therefore, if you're not actively either setting up something to water your plants or doing it yourself, they're not going to get watered. If they have a pest, since they're indoors, if you don't treat it, it doesn't get treated. So you have to be a lot more active than if you had your plants outside, because outside there's things to take care of your plants, aka nature, Mother Nature, some people say. But indoors, you kind of have to act like Mother Nature. So since we're not as consistent as Mother Nature, let's be honest, we have our highs and lows. Sometimes we want to water our plants. Sometimes we go overboard and overwater. So I wanted to share with you all what I usually do when I have a certain plant that, let's say, I've fallen out of love with, or, well, not fallen out of love. Okay, let me be clear, because if I fall out of love with a plant and I just don't like it, I'll sell it, trade it, or something. But it's a plant that I actively like, but I just don't have the means to take care of right now. Let's say I'm like emotionally cannot do it right now. I wanted to share with you a tip that I shared on my Instagram story that lots of people responded to in a good way. They were so thankful that I told them about this trick. So on my Instagram story, I said that I use a propagation box to help me take care of these plants that let's be honest, I just don't want to take care of right now. I do like them. I don't want to sell them. I don't want to get rid of them, but I just can't take care of them right now. So I put them in a propagation box. Now, let's start off with a big question that a lot of people had. What is a propagation box?
Propagation is defined as the breeding of specimens of a plant or animal by natural processes from the parent stock. Whereas a propagation box is defined as a propagation chamber or propagator that is something that can be used for rooting plant cuttings. It works like a mini greenhouse that will protect plant cuttings and give them enough moisture so that they can survive until they grow roots. There are many different types of styles of propagation boxes.
So now that we know what a propagation box or what propagation means, now we can get into the types of propagation boxes that we can do. So how I started off propagating, or with a propagation box before it was a box, was I started off my journey using a gallon bag, just regular Ziploc bag. It does the same thing as what I'm telling you right now. It's just the things that I have now have more structure. The bag kind of goes to a point, so as your plants grow, the leaves will touch the wet inside of the bag, which is not that great for the leaves. So since the box has more structure, I personally go with the box now. But starting off, if you don't have anything, you can simply just use a Ziploc bag. Now I have 3 different propagation boxes that I will pan to as I'm talking about them. And let's just start off with the propagation box that I was actually talking about, that I used to put my plants, my whole plants into, that I just simply don't want to take care of. There's the first propagation box where I put pots of propagations and I put actual plants in. Now this propagation box is a little less humid because I don't want root rot, so I don't want these plants to stay too wet for too long. I put all of my propagation boxes on a heat mat. This is not something that you have to do. This is just something that I do to make sure that the root growth is a little more faster and the plant growth is a little more faster. Since these are tropical plants, creating a subtropic, tropical type environment will be ideal for these specific plants. The second type of propagation box that I have is a perlite propagation box. This is what I've thrown different Hoya cuttings in. Hoyas do great in these types of propagation boxes. Right now I have a string of hearts, a variegated string of hearts that's propagating very well right now. All of them have new shoots. And I also have a couple of nodes of Scindapsus exotica that I've also thrown in there just as an experiment. Not any of them have sprouted, I think, quite yet, but they, I think, are on the verge because they're not dying. The third and final type of propagation that I have, propagation box that I have, is just a sphagnum propagation box where I have just a sheet of sphagnum at the bottom, and it's I personally hydrated my sphagnum moss in water mixed with Super Thrive. And I just plop the little cuttings in, make sure they're planted. I'm not laying them on top because I find it a little harder for the plant to soak up that moisture. Let's say if it's a node and not already, it doesn't already have roots in it. But I find propagating in sphagnum is a lot less shocking to the plant than if you were to propagate in water and then move the plant to soil. Also, I love this method of propagation because in the winter, water propagation is just not the move for me. It's so slow to root, higher chances of rot, and I actually like to propagate in the winter and I don't always follow the rules. So using this method of propagation and putting it under my artificial grow lights and putting it on a heat mat is the best way that I have found that propagation works in the winter for me. So that was all of my tips and tricks and the inside scoop on how I propagate and basically what I am propagating right now in my propagation boxes. I have about 4 propagation boxes. 2 of them are the ones with the pots, and then the sphagnum and the perlite. I do still have some things in water. They're just not doing as great. So I may be ending up moving those to one of the propagation boxes as well if I end up wanting it to speed up in growth. Matter of fact, I put one of my Monstera standaleyana top cuttings in water, and then I put the mid cuttings in one of the propagation boxes, and the mid cuttings have gotten bigger than the top cutting that I took and put in water. So I know for a fact that the growth is exponentially better than if you were to propagate in water. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video. Mwah. Bye guys.